We are in layout and editing. Today I want to play with the motif stitch. So let's put a shape on the table. And when you draw a shape, it comes in with a satin stitch and a fill stitch. In this case, let's turn off that fill stitch and turn on motif stitch for the outline. When you have motif stitch, it comes in with your default. I'm at inches over here. I could change it to millimeters if I wanted to. It's at 4.48 inches, or in millimeters that is 12.3. I'm going to put it back at inches because my brain is so American. And it comes in with the sewing attribute box with the default motif stitch in this folder. If you look, the folder is filled with lots of motif stitches. Like this heart, if I choose it, notice it's only on half of this. And if I choose it, instead of the flowers, you see that that heart goes along the outside edge. Where if I chose this other heart in here, see, it's taking up more of this space. It's a larger heart going with the outline through the center of it. Now let's go back to that original one that opens up by default all the time. And let us copy and paste this same design and move it over here, but this time under shapes, let's turn off the outline stitch and turn on motif for the fill stitch. So we've got the same pattern there. In this case, we have partial patterns, which I don't like, and you can change that in your shape by either making the design larger. You can do it proportionately by checking maintain aspect ratio. Sometimes you might want to do it a little bit off kilter depending on how you're doing it, but I'm going to click on maintain ratio and I'm going to make it go a little bit bigger and see if we can get rid of these partials. So that's with one. So that's pretty good. I got rid of the partials on this end, but I didn't over here. And I think if I make it bigger, it's not going to help over here, but you can take care of filling this pattern up by going down here. If you look, the H offset goes from left to right, the V offset goes from up to down, and that's where we want to make the change. So I'm going to increase this a little bit. And you see it move just so slightly with each time I hit that. And look, now I'm happy. I've got the full pattern in there and no partials. But even more important with this is this program comes with another program. If you go up here to options and you go to Programmable Stitch Center Creator and open it up, a page comes up where you can design your own stitch pattern. So here I have a very small grid, and if I take this up and I let go, I've got a dot that's right on that grid. Take another one, let go, on that grid, and you see in the preview what I'm drawing. Anything you create in the Programmable Stitch Creator for a motif stitch will be on straight lines, and the smaller your grid, the more you can make those straight lines look a little curved by having things closer together. And all of this is affected by your view. If you go to view, you have the slider bar, and right now it's a pretty small grid. I can move it over, and as you see, each one gets a little bigger. Now I could never put these dots, these stitch points, on a design I was creating in this grid, as when I do this, it immediately jumps to the closest grid. See, if I tried to put that in, try to put this one in, it jumped to there. Try to put one in here, it jumped to there. And you're seeing what I'm doing over here. So you can play with these designs. Right now I was just looking at that, but really I think as a beginner, the easiest thing would be to go ahead and not save this, but actually open up the Motif Stitch that we were using already. There it is. And this appears to be pretty much the grid that they used. So let's play with this one. If I go in here and I move this point up here, and I go to the equal one over on the other side, whoops, it was this point, and I move it up to the same line, you can see I've already changed the appearance of this from a flower to more of a butterfly. And I can move this down, make it a little longer here. Am I matched? And it's showing the default setting over here. And you can play with these dots and totally change something that was already made. So let's go ahead and save that. So we're going to do a save as. We don't want to overwrite what we had before. And since we were using the Motif 001, let's just rename it with an A. This has a default size. You can do it in default in millimeter or inches. Maybe I'd like this to come in as a default size of 0.5, so I can change that. It's all resizable actually in the program, but it does seem to make a difference how big it is as to how much you can resize. But I'm going to save this as A, and when I close this, we'll be back in the layout and editing we left before, and we go into these Motif Stitch and choose this one. That's the one we just did, and then let's choose that one here too. So now we have our kind of butterfly. In this case, the butterflies are all flying in a similar direction, but you can change that so they look like they're flying toward each other. With this button over here, the V arrange, you see how they're flip-flopping around, which also changes the look. I think butterflies should fly in all one direction, so I'll put it to go in this direction. You notice that because I changed the size of that, we now would need to adjust these again with these little sliders on the inside. Let's go a little bigger here. I think one more and I'll be rid of this area. And now on this next one, a little bigger here. I'm going to change the size of that. And now I have filled that completely. So just go ahead and play with these motif stitches, play with modifying some of the others, and I'll take you on a totally different path into something more complicated next time.